What, sir? What Google? Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Sorry for the delay. I just had to take care of something very, very briefly. We are now starting the Shabbat study, and we are in Parshat Pekudei, which starts in Exodus 38:21 and goes through Exodus 40:38 through the end of Exodus, basically. And let me share the screen differently. Okay. So this morning we were, let's see where we were. We were talking about different weights and measures, and we were also talking about translations, how to make better translations. And we were talking about numbers in the Torah as well, right? So I think we were up to 38:26. So there was a census that was done, and that was done according to the half shekel. Everyone had to give a half shekel, and that was meant to be a way of taking a census of the people. So we're here in verse 26. This is Exodus 38:26. Beka legulgolet machatzit shekel. So a half for each person, and it's talking about half a shekel, machatzit shekel. Both are ways of saying half. בשקל הקודש של כל העובר על הפקודים מבין 20 שנה ומעלה ול600,000 ו3,550. So we're talking about some numbers here. Okay, so we're going to add here one or two things. So the amount of gold that was brought, we did a quick calculation. We said it's worth about $60 million in today's day and age. And then if we say there are about 600,000 people, well, 60 million divided by 600,000 is going to give us about $100. I think I said 60 this morning. That would be incorrect. So about $100 per person. So about $100 worth of gold per person on average, right? It doesn't mean everyone brought $100 worth of gold. So zahav tnufat teshav esrim. So let's add this. So gold, the amount of gold that was donated. So this is Exodus 38:26. 38.24. $38.24. And the amount of gold donated was, where were we? Well, it's broken down into kikars and then shekels. So we saw that a shekel is a part of a kikar. I can't remember the exact number, but a shekel is much smaller than a kikar. Kikar is usually translated as a talent, although Everett Fox translates it as an ingot. Ingot, I think he says. I can't remember, Ingsol or ingot, something like that. At any rate, it's a big block or big lump of gold. So we have 29 kikars. So let's just add that. So 29 number of kikars. Gold donated to the Mishkan. Okay. And then we're going to also have, so how are we going to do this? So we had 29 kikar, 730 shekel, so 730 shekels. So I should really put this as one. I should really put this as one because it's part of the same thing. So we're going to do 29 and where was it? So then it was 730, 730. 29 and 730. A number of kikars and shekels of gold donated to the, not to the Mishkan, to the Mishkan. Should probably get. Okay. Move this out a little bit. And that looks like, let's do this. That now looks like divided by. So how can we do this? I'll do it like this. Okay. So then we can get rid of this line here. Okay, so that's that. I don't have any comments to add there. Okay, let's just make this. Lavia went outside because he was on the table and he was eating. He was stepping almost in the olive oil in the plate with the onions and olive oil. So I put him outside. I don't know. He's not going to go far because it's raining, I think. Okay. At any rate, so there we go. So that's that. Okay, we said that. So now we're up to the silver. וכסף פיקודי העדה, מעט כיכר, או 1,770 shekel בשקל לחודש. Okay, so the... One second. Yeah, so the silver that was donated was 100 kikar. So let's add that. So that's in 38.25. So then we have 100 kikar. 100 kikar. מעט כיכר ו-1,770. So then we have shekels 1,775. 1,775 shekels. That can't be closed now. And I might need to go out. Okay, I really want it open right now, okay? Right now? Yeah, right now. Sometimes I need to go out. Okay, I don't want to close, please. All right? And this is the number of shekels or shekels of silver donated to the Mishkan. Okay. Okay, so that's gold and that's silver. So we know that 1,775 shekels must be less than a kikar, or they just would have said 101 kikarot. Okay, I don't have any comments for that one, but we're just trying to make a list of numbers for, I don't know, whatever reason, for what the heck. Volkswagen, please, these cats, I can't have a zillion cats running around while I'm trying to do the study, all right? Please, okay? Just let Lovey outside. He's not bothering anyone. All right. עכשיו 70 שקל ושקל לחודש. 26, שקל לגולגולת מחצית שקל ושקל לחודש לכל העובר על הפיקודים מבין 20 שנה ומעלה, ו600,000 ו30,000, so 600,000 ו3,000, 603,550, so 603,550, that's the amount of people that brought half shekels, okay? Okay. Okay, ויהי מעט כיכר הכסף לצקת את אדני הקודש ואת אדני הפרוכת. So these 1,000 talents of silver were used to cast. So they were used to make the adanim. The adanim are the sockets. We spoke about the sockets last week. The sockets are the things that connect, I think, the boards of the, I'm not even going to go back to it, but it's either the boards or maybe it was the tents. I mean, maybe it was the outer tents. Maybe it was the thing that connected the outer tents. I think those were the krasim. At any rate, it's the part of the connecting pieces of the Mishkan. And the things, so the parochet is the veil that goes over the Holy of Holies. Ma'at adanim lema'at hakikar, kikar le'aden. So 1 silver of 1, so there were 100 of these adanim, and this and there were 100 kikar. So each aden was used for the kikar. So let's look at, actually, let's just look at the adanim for a second. So that first appears. Base pedestal, they translated as. He's about to jump up on the table. And it first appears in Exodus 26:19. So if we look at 26:19 for a second, let's go there. 26:19. I'll just take the English just to save us a little bit of time. So 26:19. I'll start in 15. Make upright frames of acacia wood for the tabernacle. Each frame is to be 10 cubits long and a cubit and a half wide. So that's the holy place, okay? With 2 projections set parallel to each other. Make all the frames of the tabernacle in this way. Make 20 frames for the south side of the tabernacle and make 40 silver bases to go under them. 2 bases for each frame, 1 under each projection. The other side, the north side of the tabernacle, make 20 frames and 40 silver bases, 2 under each frame. Make 6 frames at the far. Okay, well, just leave it open, please. They're not going to go anywhere. Make 6 frames from the far end, that is the west end of the tabernacle. Make 2 frames. So I'm assuming this is all going to add up to 100 frames altogether. So these frames are, let's see. Wow, it's really pouring out there. Make 20 frames, etc., etc. I don't want to go back over this because, again, I don't want to get bogged down here. But this is going to add up to 20. So the translating it here is frames. Okay. Volky. Volk. Whatever. Doesn't matter. Okay. Okay, for the other side, okay. All right. At the 2 corners, they must double, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so there'll be 8 frames and 16 silver bases, etc., 2 under each frame. So these are the, where were we? Make 20 frames of them, make 40 silver bases. So these are the silver bases. That's the way the Adanim are being translated. So 26:19. If we look at the Hebrew, 26:19. So we have v'arba'im adane kasef taseh tachat asrim hakaresh. So 40 of these. Excuse me for 1 second. I can't. This cat's meowing. There's a whole bunch of things going on, and I just have to study. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I'm not bothering you. It is bothering me. Okay. The cat's running all over the place. You're running all over the place. Please put the cat's in there now. All right. And just leave it. All right. Please. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So. So each of these, again, these are like silver bases, sockets here they translate them as sometimes. And I wish we could get a picture of it. So maybe we can. Tabernacle, silver sockets. So here are some images of these silver sockets. Of course, nobody knows exactly what they look like, so this is just speculation, but let's see if we can get some good pictures here. Oh, the Savior, we'll skip that one. Silver sockets. Okay. Let's see here for 1 second. I wish there was a way to just blow this up. Okay, the tabernacle and its boards. So maybe this will give us some insight here. Okay. So these seem here to be the silver sockets down at the bottom. Okay. Full gospel Bible camp, whatever. Let's read through this and see what we can see. All right. The tent of the tabernacle is described in Exodus 26, 1 through 27. It was constructed with boards made of acacia wood overlaid with gold. So these are the boards right here. Okay, we can see those that are colored in a yellowish kind of look to them. Okay. And acacia wood is considered incorruptible, whatever that means. It is very dense and resistant both to disease and insects, just like cedar. Okay, trees in that they grow out of the earth typify man, blah, blah, blah. We don't need all of that. Jesus stuff, we don't need any of that. Whereby are given the exceeding great and precious promises. Okay. At any rate, we want to get down to the business here. So gold board, that one. Okay, so each board had 2 legs that sat in 2 silver bases. So here's the description right over here. Okay. So these were basically the bases or sockets for stability when resting on the desert sands. The 2 silver sockets that the legs of the gold covered boards fit in speak of the redemptive work of Christ. Forget that nonsense on which blah, 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 blah. We don't need all of that. Okay. 1 second here. Okay, so these seem to be pictures of the sockets here, right? Right down there, the thing at the bottom, this is like a base with sockets into which, or as bases into which these sockets fit. And each board had 2 of these sockets that fit into 2 of these bases. Okay, so that's the basic idea, okay? And we can see a picture here. Now we know that the tabernacle had on its east and its west side 20 boards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. So there are 20 here, so that's 40, which means that there were 80 sockets, right? Since each board had 2 sockets. And then on this side, there are 6 boards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's going to be 12. So that's 92 altogether sockets. And then another 8, I think, are the corner sockets, which are described. Okay. And each one of these sockets took up 1 kikar. It was 1 kikar, 1 talent of silver. Okay. Let's just see if there's anything else we can learn about this. So if we look again, just to go quickly, I think I'm just going to go into the English. So this is Exodus 26, starting at 15. So each frame, so these are the boards or the frames, okay, 10 cubits long, blah, 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 with two projections set parallel to each other. So these are the things I think that protrude down to the bottom, out of the bottom of each of those boards. Oops. Out of the bottom of each of those boards. Okay, so these are the things we saw in this picture right here. So I'm assuming, where'd that go? That these are the two protrusions. Okay, let's look at the word again in Hebrew. So this is now Exodus 26:17. So we've got to go to the Hebrew here. Shtei yadot. So they call it shtei yadot l'keresh echad. Okay, so the yadot literally hands. Okay, here they translate it as tenons. I don't even know what a tenon is, but okay. So these two things that stick out, okay, from the bottom of each board. And where were we? Projections. Okay, so that's a good translation. Projections. Okay, set parallel to each other. The Hebrew says, "Shtei yadot l'keresh echad mishu lavot isha el achota." So literally joined one to the other. Here, there they say set parallel. Ken ta'aseh lechol kashe mishkan ve'asita et hakrashim lemishkan 20 keresh lefa'at negba temana. So I think I said the east and the west side. I meant the north and the south side. Okay, because the west is the direction you face when you walk into the tabernacle. Okay, the east is open. The west has the 6 boards. The south, the north, and the south have 20 boards each. Okay, so the arba'im adane kesef. So these are the bases. Okay, arba'im adane kesef. תעשה תחת 20 הקרש 2 אדנים תחת הקרש האחד לשתי ידותיו ושני אדנים תחת הקרש האחד לשתי ידותיו. So that's what we're seeing in this picture here. Okay, under each board, these are the yadot, these things, these protrusions that stick out from the bottom, and these are the adanim, these are the bases, and they have 2 places, actually it's 2 bases joined together, at least in this picture. Okay. Okay, so the yadot fit into the adanim. The protrusions fit into these bases. Okay. Uletzela mishkan hashenit lefat tzafon 20 keresh. So it's the same on the north side, and 40 of them, 40 of the bases. Okay, 2 per base. Or yarkatea mishkan yama. That's a shisha krashim. So on the yama is the west side. Yama means towards the sea, and in the context of the Israelites, it means towards the Great Sea or towards the Mediterranean Sea. Okay. Which means that the Israelites at this point weren't south of the Mediterranean Sea, which is interesting, right? If we look at the map again. So, map of Earth, Middle East. Oops. So there we go. So in the Sinai Desert, which is where we're assumed to be, right? But maybe not when it was written, right? Maybe the Torah was assembled when the Israelites were already in the plains of Moab. But if we're in the Sinai Desert, that's really not, Yama is not west, right? The Great Sea, the Mediterranean Sea would be to the north, but that's just a minor side point. Okay, so okay, so we said, where were we? We skipped ahead here. Sorry, that's the wrong one. So we have 6 boards facing the west. And then 2 more boards. So miktaot would be the corners, okay, of the Mishkan. So you have 2 more boards. ויכתב ייעוד תמים על ראשו אל הטבעות האחד, כן יהיה לשני המקצועות ייעוד, היו 80 קרשים ועדניהם כסף 16 עדנים, 2 עדנים תחת הקרש האחד, so to be a total of 8, 6 across and then 2 corner ones to kind of hold the whole thing together. So that would now bring us to, so we'd have 40 on each of the north and south side, 40 of these adanim, of these bases, so that's a total of 80. And now we're going to have 6 panels on the west side and then 2 corner panels. Each one of these is going to have 2 more of these bases. So we have another 16 bases. So that brings us up to 96 bases. So I don't know where we get the 100 from, to be honest. So we need basically two more to give the 100, unless it's 2 in each corner. Let's see. שני קרשים תעשה למקצועות המשכן, ירכתיים, היו תאומים מלמטה, ויכתב יהיו תמים על ראשו אל הטבעות האחד, כן יהיה לשני המקצועות יהיו. היו 8 קרשים, עדניהם כסף 16 עדנים, 2 עדנים תחת הקרש האחד, 2 עדנים תחת קרש האחד. So as far as I could see, that adds up to 96. But yet, we see here that there are 100. Right? Leme'at, here it says, Ma'at adanim lema'at hakikar kikar adan. So here it speaks about 100 of these bases, or these bases, basically these sockets, right? These silver sockets where the adot, where the protrusions go into. So I'm not sure where the other 4 come from. Let's see here. So we look back at Adanehem, or Adanim. Let's see. Oops. Adin. So it's all in 26. Shimona Krashim, that's that. That's that. That's that. 26, 25. Here's another 4 that's mentioned in 2632. So let's take a look at that. 2632. ונתת אותה על 4 עמודי שיטים מצופים זהב, ועשית פרוכת, תכלת. So this is now the covering. וארגמן ותולעת שני ושש מצר מעשה חושב יעשה אותה קרובים. So this is now the covering for the tabernacle. Again, we're not translating this tabernacle, we're translating it as the, how do we say? The meeting, no. What I want to call tabernacle now? Mishkan is what's it called? נתת אותה על 4 עמודי שיטים, מצופים זהב, ווים זהב על 4 אדני כסף. So here we have, okay. So the coverings, נתת אותה על 4 עמודי שיטים. So now there are going to be 4 poles of acacia wood that are covered, not plated, what's the word? Overlaid in gold. Vaveim zahav, with gold rings or hooks. Al arba'a dene kesef. So each of those is going to stand on one of these silver bases. So these are the 4 poles that hold up the whatchamacall, that hold up the parochet, the covering for the tabernacle, okay, for the dwelling tent. So there's our 100. Okay, that's the other 4 we were missing. Those are 100 adane kesef, our 100 silver bases. This is a picture, a picture of a silver base. Forget all the Christian stuff. I just did a random search. And each of these here, the 2 silver bases under each of these 20 panels, that's 40. And on the other side, that's 80. Over here, we have 6 more panels facing the west. So that's going to be another 92. Then we have the two corner ones, which you can see there. So that's going to be 96. And then we have 4 poles, which are going to be holding up the covering over the tabernacle, over the dwelling tent. Okay. And so that's going to make our 100. So there's our 100 silver bases that are being spoken about. Okay. So we made some sense out of that. Good. Right. Let's turn this on. All right. And that is being done with what we said was 100 talents of silver, right? 100 kikars of silver. That's in Exodus 38:25. So let's go back to our Exodus 38:25, and 1 talent of silver for each base. Okay. So for each of these double bases, that would be 2 talents of silver. Talent of silver is a lot. I think we said it's about 2 kilograms, right? Whether it's gold or silver. A kikar is about 2 kilograms, if I remember correctly. So that's a lot of silver and a lot of gold. Okay, verse 28. So these hooks were made out of the 1,775 shekels. So I should maybe break this up here. So let's break this up and copy this over. The 100. No, let's do it this way. So 100, we'll leave that here. And here, 1775. So this is the number of kikars of silver donated to the Mishkan. And this would be the number of shekels of silver donated to the Mishkan. Okay. And this is for use in the silver, 100 silver bases. Should be the Adanim. All right, so let's find that. There. Okay. For the 100 silver bases, and C, and that would be in Exodus 26. Okay. So that's that. Now, these 1,000. Now we have 1,775 shekels. And these are being used for the Vavim, La'amudim, Tzipar, Rashem, Hishakotam, Unechoshet. Okay, so then we'll get to that. Let me just make sure once again that these are being mentioned correctly. Yeah, I could put this both for Exodus 38:25. Close enough. So this is going to be Exodus 38:25, Exodus 38. Okay. And this is going to be for use in the hooks. That's going to be Vavim. oops, where were we? Hooks for the pillars, okay? Amim. And that is, oh, let's leave it at that. Okay, so that's that. All right. And then we have the census for the half shekel that was mentioned, right? Half shekel uh, for each person. Okay. So we could do a calculation here, actually, assuming that all of the kesef that's donated. All right, so let's do a nice calculation here. Okay, so for kesef pikudei ida me'at kikar, so we know it's 100 kikar and 1,775 shekels. So let's do a little calculation here. So it's 100 kikars and 1,175 shekels, and we know that there are 603,550 people, each of who brought half a shekel. So let's do a little bit of calculation here, okay? So if we have that, so if each person brought a half a shekel, that means half of this would be the amount of shekels, okay? So this means that, so 603,550 divided by 2 is going to be, let's see if I can do this in my head, it's going to be 3, 1, no, I'm doing that wrong. It's going to be 63. So it's going to be 31, 5. The 5 is going to go over there. I'll just save time and do it here. So 603. 603,550 divided by 2. So 301,775. It's over here. That 301,775 shekels were collected. Okay, so what does that mean now? And let me just check that. 301 times 775 times 2 is going to be 602 plus 775 times 2 is going to be 14. It's going to be 1550. So it's going to be 550 over here, and that's going to be 603. So that's okay. That means that 301 shekels were collected, right? And we know that 1,775 shekels are mentioned here for the Vavim. So let's go back here. So subtracting 1,775 shekels for the hooks, for the Vavim. This leaves, so that leaves exactly 300,000 shekels, okay, for the 100 bases. Okay, so 300,000 shekels for the 100 bases. And if that's the case, we know that 300,000 divided by 100 is going to be 3,000. So 300,000, this means that there means, let's do it this way, 3,000 shekels per base. But since we know that each base was a kikar, since each base is a kikar of silver, this means that a kikar is equivalent to 3,000 shekels. That's it. How's that for a nice Torah calculation? I like it. Let's check that and see if that checks out. Okay. So the census was 603,550 shekels. Okay. Each person, I'm sorry, half shekels. That means there were 301,775 shekels. We know that 1,775 shekels were donated to the Mishkan for the Vavim. That leaves us another 300,000 shekels for the 100 bases. That means each base got 3,000 shekels. And since each base, it says explicitly, was a kikar of silver. Where does it say each base is a kikar of silver? It says it in, let's find that. ויהי מעט כיכר הכסף לצקת את אדני הקודש ואת אדני הפרוכת, מעט אדנים למעט כיכר לאדן. Here it says in Exodus 38:27 explicitly, one kikar for one base. Okay, and that's Exodus 38:27. So let's add that. Oops. 38:27. Okay, this means that a kikar is equivalent to 3,000 shekels. So we've basically proven that according to the Torah, one kikar is 3,000 shekels. Okay, clearly. All right, that's good. I like that. That's good Torah analysis. What is suspicious, however, is that there were exactly 603,550 people, and that is exactly the same amount of silver that's needed. I find that, I must say, a little bit strange and suspicious. So I don't know what's going on there, but let's read it again. וכסף פיקודי העדה מעט כיכר ו1,700, I'm reading in verse 25, 75 שקל בשקל הקודש, בקע לגולגולת מחצית השקל בשקל הקודש לכל העובר על הפיקודים מבין 20 שנה, ומעלה ל600,000 ו3,550. Okay, somehow the numbers worked out perfectly. You can call it a miracle of God, or I don't know what to say about that actually. Okay. ויהי מעט כיכר הכסף לצקת את אדני הקודש ואת אדני הפרוכת מעט אדנים. So maybe I should even it is, how do I make this? It is strange that the number people was exactly what was necessary, precise amount of silver required. Okay, so that's all I have to say about that. Okay, so I wonder if any other commentaries pick up on that. Let's see if Robert Alter has anything to say. And we are in, well, we're around 25, so 38 to 25. We'll go take a look at and read some of the commentaries there. Okay, so, right, for 600,000 and 3,550, the precise previously given round number 600,000 males, is now made more precise for an enhancement of the effect of exact census of the present context. The four that prefixes the number may be dictated by the beginning of a sentence. Silver beka is paid for each head of the 603,550 males. And that's all he has to say. So he doesn't pick up on the fact that that's the exact number, I don't think. Okay. Alrighty, so that's that. Let's see if Ibn Ezra has anything to say or any of the other commentaries have anything to say. Let's close this off. You can close this off for now. Close this off for now. I'll leave that open in case we need to refer to it now. I'll close it off. So, in the Tanakh, in the Ibn Ezra, so we are in Exodus. And once again, this is Exodus 38. And, let's go to around here. Okay, we read that already earlier. We read that. Okay. Okay, nothing that I'm looking for there. So we learned from some mention in this verse that a talent consists of 300 shekalim, and the silver of them that were numbered of the congregation proves this. So there we go. So that's exactly, so basically Ibn Ezra did exactly the same calculation that we did right now. So, and there's a footnote here, those numbered came to 603,350. Each one of those numbered gave a half shekel. The aforementioned thus contributed 301,000. Okay, basically exactly the calculation we did, so I don't have to go through it. Okay. Okay. Right. Okay, so that's it. So Ibn Ezra has nothing else to add there specifically about that. Let's see if someone. So he did. So the exact same calculation was done by the Ibn Ezra. I'm liking the Ibn Ezra's commentary a lot more than Rashi, who I can't stand. But let's now look and see if any of these other commentaries pick up on the fact that this is the exact number of people who produce the exact amount of silver required for what needed to be done, which is a bit strange and suspicious. So let's see if any of the other ones pick up on this. I've got to go to Exodus 38, and I've got to go to commentary. And we want to go to, so that would be in verse, where was that? That's the gold. We want the silver. So around 25. So 38 to 25. Oops, I can close that off. So 38, 25. Okay. So I don't see anything here. So here's that same calculation again. Well, no, it's trying to convert it to pound sterling. Okay. right? Okay. All right. So same kind of things are mentioned here. Nothing new. Let's go to 26 and see if anything worthwhile is mentioned. Um, there's a lot to say here. Let's just read one random commentary. Okay. The foundation of massy pieces of silver showed the solidity and purity. No, we don't want that. 600, where was it? 600,000 and 3,550. The identity of this number with that which is given in Numbers 146 as arrived at in the second year on the first day of the second month. Numbers 1:1 is best explained by regarding both passages as having reference to the same transaction. The taking of the census occupied several months during which the money was gradually collected. And the sockets, etc., made, and the tabernacle set up. The registration was deferred and took place on a single day. When Moses and Aaron went round, the tribes received the results from their hands and entered them in a book. It appears from Numbers 147 that the Levites were not counted in the sum total, no atonement money being taken from them. Okay, well, this we'd be here for hours if we start going down this route. So let's just leave it. Alrighty, so all right, so we're up to verse 29. Now the Choshet. So now we're talking about the bronze. So we have, so let's go over here. And we're going to go for this. I'll just copy and modify. So now we are in Exodus. Oops. Let's close this off. Let's close this off. So now we're in Exodus 38:29. So this is 38:29. 38:29. And what do we got? So Shivim Kikar. So 70 Kikar of bronze. We have to change bronze. This is going to be bronze. This. Get rid of this. So, what do we say? 70 Kikar. Alafim va'arba ma'ot shaker. Alpaim va'arba ma'ot shaker. So 2,400 shekels. Okay. ו-2,400 שקל, ויעש בה את אדני פתח אוהל מועד. So these were done for the bases of the entrance to the tent of meeting, ואת מזבח הנחושת, and the bronze, whatchamacall, the bronze altar, ואת מחבר הנחושת. So the מחבר is the connecting point. I'm sorry, it's the grating. It's with a chaf, not a height. הנחושת אשר לו ואת כל כלי המזבח. So we won't even mention, well, it does mention what it's for. ואת אדני החצר סביב, ואת אדני שאר החצר, ואת כל ידותיו, המשכן, יתדות המשכן, ואת כל יתדות החצר סביב. So this is for the lesser things, right? The more outer areas, right? So the inner areas, the most important things are made with gold. The less important things are made of silver, and the less important things after that are made of bronze, right? So that's that. So We won't even translate it. We'll just say, so uses are described in 30, 20, 38, 30, and 31. 38, 30, 31. Uses are described in Exodus 38, 30 to 31. Here. 38, 30, and 31. Okay, so that's all the gold, the silver, and the bronze that was collected. And I should break this one up too. This would be 29. So number of kikars, gold, and this is going to be 730. And this is going to be the number of shekels of gold. Okay. And the use for those is mentioned up above. Actually, it doesn't mention the uses, right? It doesn't mention the uses for the gold. In fact, that's what Ibn Ezra pointed out, right? Ibn Ezra says, let's find it. So he's quoting the Sa'di Gaon. I'll just read in English to save time. So Sa'di Gaon asks, why does scripture, there's another, he was a very anti-Karaite rabbinical commentator, but if he has something true to say, then he has something true to say. Why does scripture note what was done with the silver, but does not mention what donated gold was used for? He, meaning Sa'di Gaon, answers, let's not call him Sa'di Gaon since he was so anti-Karaite. His real name was Fayumi or something like that. Sa'di Gaon, let's call him by his real name. Sa'dia bin Joseph al-Fayumi. We'll just call him al-Fayumi, okay? So al-Fayumi answers, look, scripture notes that the menorah was made out of a talent of gold. This was also the case with the ark cover and the gold utilized for the ark and the altar of incense. Now, this is incorrect. Only menorah was entirely made of gold. This was not the case with the ark. So the Ibn Ezra, I like the Ibn Ezra. He's great. So he's saying Sa'adi Gaon is incorrect. So he's not such a gaon after all, not such a genius after all. Look, scripture notes that the menorah is made out of talent of gold. This is also the case with the ark cover and the gold utilized for the ark and the altar of incense. Now, this is incorrect. Only the menorah was made entirely of gold. This was not the case with the ark. The ark was only overlaid with gold on the inside and on the outside. The same was true of the altar of the incense. The table, the staves, the boards, etc., were all overlaid with gold. The ark cover was made completely of gold. According to the tradition passed on to us by our fathers, the ark cover was made from a talent of gold because it was very broad and very wide. I believe that scripture mentions what they did with the silver because the silver was given for atonement. Observe. Scripture notes that the tabernacle, which included all the vessels, stood on the silver which the Israelites were obligated to give. This served as a memorial to the children of Israel, who can estimate how much gold was needed to overlay all the vessels of the tabernacle. Very nice. I like his commentary a lot. He's great. He's good, the Ibn Ezra. So basically what the Ibn Ezra is saying, we can't estimate, right? Because we're not given exact amounts. Because, for instance, while the ark cover was made of pure gold, the ark itself was not made of pure gold. It was made of acacia wood overlaid with gold, and so were many of the other things. So there's no way to estimate exactly what was needed for all of the different uses for the gold. But with the silver, it's mentioned explicitly, right? Good comment. I like this guy. Okay, so that's that. So that brings us up to the end of chapter 38. Let's move on. I mean, we could spend another hour, 2 hours on this stuff, but we're not going to. Okay. Want to push forward a little bit. Alrighty. So the ephod. So umin hatchelet והארגמן ותולעת השני עשו בכדי שרד. So what is this word srad? It's related to the word misrad, ministry or office. Interesting. So that's not what this translation, that's not what the BDB says. However, there are translations. For instance, if we look at Everett Fox, let's see what he says. So this is 39:1. Okay. So Exodus 39:1. So he translates this as officiating garments. Okay. Bigdei Srad. So here he's translating Srad as office, or here they translate it as ministry. Okay, but the BDB does not translate it as that. Translates it as plaited or braided work. And so the various translations translate Bigdei Srad. Here we see the NAS, which is the New American Standard Bible, translates it as finely woven garments. Here the KJV, King James, translates it of service. Okay, finally ministering the holy. What the heck that means? Woven, of service, woven. So there's, I guess, a distinction, or there's a disagreement between what srad means. Either woven or plaited or braided work according to the BDB, or the office or ministry. Okay, let's take a look at Robert Alter. So that's going to be now 39:1. So he translates it as serve in the sanctuary. Made service garments to serve in the sanctuary, right? So Bigdei Srad l'sharet bekodesh. Okay, so he's relating, I guess, Srad l'sharet from the word sar. Well, I guess he's not. He couldn't possibly be doing that because this is a sin. This is a shin. This is a dalet at the end, and this would not have a dalet at the end. So I don't think he is actually doing that. But nonetheless, he's making that connection. Service garments to serve in the sanctuary. Let's see if there's anything to say about that. Um, so he doesn't have anything to say about that explicitly. Why he chose that translation, right? Okay, let's look at the Ibn Ezra. This is 39:1. 39:1 Bigdei Srad הם הנזכרים לפי המדבר סיני. בפרשת במדבר סיני. הציווה השם שיכסו ארון בפרוכת בעבור כבודו, ועל הפרוכת כיסוי אור תחש, ועל זה הכיסוי בגד כליל תכלת. ועל דרך ההסברה כי תכלת בעבור כבוד. No, so he's saying something else here. Let's look here. Okay, so he doesn't really mention anything. Actually, that's 39.2. No, it's 39.1. So he doesn't mention why. Well, he doesn't give a translation, but he doesn't mention whether he understands this to be braided or plated work, and or for serving. Okay, but again, the BDB translates it as plated or braided work. Some of the translations say woven garments. Some say garments of service. Right. So there is a machloket. From Sarad, escape. So Hebrew Sarad, to escape. So I'm not really sure what the connection is. Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. This could either be Pekudei Sarad could either mean the service, the garments of service, or it could mean the plated garments. Okay, Lisharet b'kodesh, to serve in the holy area. Yasu et Pekudei HaKodesh asher le'Aaron ka'ashet tziwa Yahweh et Moshe. It's Aaron as so basically these are the garments for Aharon, meaning for the priests. Kashet tziwa Yahweh et Moshe, as God, as Yahweh commanded Moshe. Okay. So that's that. So basically it's saying they took the Tchelet Argaman Tolat Shani and they did the garments with them. Okay, Yas et Haifod Zahav, Tchelet Argaman with Tolat Shani was Shesh Mashzar. So that's the ephod was now made out of gold and tchelet and sky blue and violet and crimson and fine linen or bissel threads, twine bissel threads or fine twine linen. Okay, we yark'u et pahei zahav. So yark'u is to beat out. It's the same. It's the same word as rakia, which appears in, or it's from the same root as rakia, which appears in Genesis 1. Let's take a look at that for 1 second. Oops. So rakia, which is often translated as firmament, and let's just find that. So here it is. So 6 on the second day. Wayomer Elohim Yehi Rakia b'toch hamayim. Wahi mavdil ben mayim lamayim. So there should be, and it's usually translated as a firmament, but rakia really means a beaten out. It comes from the same thing, from the same root that we see here. Where was it? Right? So they beat out. Okay. So why is a rakia? What does that have to do with beating out? Right? Like you would take a gold and you would beat it out into a thin plate. Because the idea here is that the image is that there's this kind of dome that's beaten out of solid material, which covers the sky. Now, it's not obviously meant to be literal. There's no way in the world that the Israelites actually believed there was a dome of beaten out metal or beaten out material that covered the sky. But it's basically saying that it's sometimes it's translated as a dome. Okay, so it's saying that when the Israelites, or when the Torah is what the Torah is trying to say is that in the Torah's perception, when we looked up into the sky, we saw kind of a dome, okay, that's separated. So bitoch hamayim, okay, wahi mavdil ben mayim lamayim, and it's separated between water to water. So what the heck does that mean? Separated between water and water, right? It means the water below and the water above. Okay, so you can think of it if pretend you're a kind of primitive person, you're looking up in the sky and you see rain coming down from the sky, okay? And poetically, or maybe you even believed it, but I don't think so. Poetically, you see that there's the separation between the water below, the seas, and the water above that's coming out of the skies. And this is this rakia, often translated as firmament, but really means a dome, but even more so means this kind of dome that's beaten out of a single piece of material that covers the sky, right? So that's the imagery that's being presented here, okay? And that's why rakia, it's a bad translation. Genesis 1:6. I'm curious to see how Robert Alter deals with that one. He probably translates it, I'm going to guess, as dome. Let's see. It's 1:6. Let there be a vault. And then here's a comment. The Hebrew rakia suggests a hammered out slab. That's what we just said. Okay. Not necessarily arched, but the English architectural term with its celestial association created by poetic tradition is otherwise appropriate. Right. So, yeah, a vault. So I guess vaulted means, right? What does the word vaulted mean? It's an architectural word. A vaulted ceiling. There you go. So that's an example of a vaulted ceiling. It's like a domed ceiling, right? Or an arched ceiling. So it means arched, right? So it's what we were just saying right now, that this word rakia really means like a dome that's beaten out of a single piece of metal or a single piece of material. And that represents in Genesis 1 the sky, right? It's as if you can look up and you see this dome that's beaten out of material, and out of it comes rain, and that it separates from the water. Then where's the rain coming from? It's coming from above the dome, and it's coming down to the earth. The water below is the seas, the rivers, etc., etc. So this dome is separating from the water above, the rain, and the water below, and that's kind of the Israelite conception of the world. Again, it's not meant to be taken literally. Oops, I can get rid of this. Okay, so does that make sense? Any questions, any comments? Liz, any questions or comments? I see you out there. Alrighty, so let's go back to here. Okay. So, Yarka'ut Pachei Zahav. So they beat out the thin sheets of metal. So this is the ephod zahav, the ephod. Right? So what is the ephod? It's that outer covering of the priest's garments that holds it holds two things. It holds the shoham stones on the shoulders, and it also holds the choshen mishpat. Let's take a look. Let's see if we can get a nice picture of the ephod. Okay, so here's the ephod, and as you can see on the, let's see if we can blow it up a little bit. No, that didn't do anything. Oops. So here's the ephod. It's depicted in yellow. Okay, on the shoulders are the two shoham stones. Each one has the names of 6 tribes inscribed in it, And then here we have the Choshen Mishpat, which is often translated as the breastplate of judgment, although no one is sure exactly what the word Choshen means. Some people even say it's the sack, which contained 12 stones with the names of the tribes of Israel in it, and then they're picked out like lots. But at any rate, we'll go with this. So this is the ephod. Okay, let's read a little bit about the ephod, just to remind ourselves. Okay, type of apron worn by the Jewish high priest, an artifact and an object to be revered in ancient Israelite culture, connected with oracular practices and priestly rituals. This is talking about the Urim V'Tumim. Okay. In the Bible, in the context where it is worn, the ephod is usually described as being linen, but did not constitute complete clothing of any kind. Okay, a passage in the book of Exodus describes the ephod as an elaborate garment worn by the high priest, and upon which the Hoshen, or breastplate containing the Urim and Tumim, rested. According to this description, the ephod was woven out of gold, blue, purple, and scarlet threads, and was made of fine linen, and was embroidered with skillful work in gold thread. Exodus 28, 6-14. Excuse me. So let's look at that. Exodus 28, 6-14. We can close this off. I'll just do the English just to make it a little bit faster. Oops. There we go. So Exodus 28:6, making the ephod of gold and blue and purple and scarlet yarn, and a finely twisted linen, the work of skilled hands. It is to have 2 shoulder pieces attached to 2 of its corners. Those are these things over here. Right, here are the shoulder pieces. So it can be fastened. Its skillfully woven waistband is to be like it, of one piece with the ephod, and made with gold and with blue and purple and scarlet yarn, and with finely twisted linen. Take 2 onyx stones and engrave on them the names of the sons of Israel in the order of their birth, 6 names on one stone, and the remaining 6 on the other. Engrave the names of the sons of Israel on 2 stones, the way a gem cutter engraves a seal. Then mount the stones in gold filigree settings, and fasten them on the shoulder pieces of the ephod as memorial stones for the sons of Israel. Aaron is to bear the names on his shoulders and as a memorial before Yahweh. Make gold filigree settings, etc., etc. So basically, the ephod is to be made of, if we look here in the Hebrew, we'll just read verse 6. Wasuat ephod zahav, tchelet, argaman, v'tola'at shani, washesh mashzar, maseh choshev. Let me just see one thing. Okay. Yarn tola'at shani. Okay, it's a kind of an awkward translation. Washesh masar, maseh choshev. Finely twisted linen. Okay. All right. So I guess the implication here is the gold is somehow threaded into the ephod. That's 28:6. Let's take a look at Robert Alter on 28:6. Oops. So Exodus 28:6. Okay, so it just says gold. All right, so some of the commentators at least seem to say that the gold is basically gold thread, and that's what the ephod is made out of. Okay, we'll assume that that's the case for now. Okay, so let's close out of Exodus 28, back to Exodus 39. Okay, we yarka'u et pachei zahav. So they made basically the plates of gold, or the thin sheets of gold. Wakitzitz pitilim, and they cut off edges, threads. Lasot b'toch התכלת, ובתוך הארגמן, ובתוך תולעת השני, ובתוך השש מעשה חושב. Uh-huh. Okay, I think I got it now. So what this is saying is, so they took gold, they beat it out into a thin sheet, and then they cut it up into little strips, and then they weaved it into the ephod with the tchelet and the argaman and the tolat shani and the shesh. So that's what it's saying, I believe. That's what verses 2 and 3 are saying. Okay, let's take a look again at some translations. So Exodus 39:2. Then they made the ephod of gold, blah blah blah. They then were beat out sheets of gold, and they were split into threads to make use of them amid the blue violet, amid the purple, amid the warm scarlet, and amid the twisted byssus, all of designers making. So that's exactly what it's saying there, at least according to Everett Fox. And I assume that Robert Alter is going to say exactly the same thing. So we have to go to 38 now. Go back up here. So Exodus 38, 6, and he made, Exodus 39, 6. And they made the carnelian. That couldn't be it. Exodus 39. No. Exodus 39. Where are we? 3, not 6. Exodus 39, 3. And they pounded out. Here we go. This sentence right here. And they pounded out the sheets of gold and cut strands to work into the indigo and into the purple and into the crimson and into the linen designer's work. So that's basically what it's saying. Okay. So that's exactly it. So they took the gold and they basically turned the gold into threads, and then they weaved them in together with the other threads, with the tchelet and the argaman and the tolat shani and the shesh. Okay, interesting. Okay, כתפות עשו לו חוברות על שני קצותיו חובר. So those are those shoulder pads. והחשב עפודתו אשר עליו ממנו הוא כמעשהו זהב תכלת וארגמן תולעת שני ושש משזר כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. So they did the shoulder pads. Excuse me. So that's verse 4. חשב עפודתו. So the ornamented band that was on it. So this is the chashev. So that's a bit, let's see. Let's see what Everett Fox says about that one. So that's 39.5. So he goes with the designed band of its ephod that was on it, was from it, of like making of gold, blue, violet, purple, warm, scarlet, and twisted byssus, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. Okay. So, so this band that was on it, let's see if we could get a picture here. Kind of hard to tell, but another part of the ephod. Okay, for 6, v'yasu et avnei shoham, musabot, mishbatzot zahav. So they made the onyx stones. Again, nobody knows if it's really onyx. We saw that there were a number of different translations for shoham that we found. If we go over to Tabernacle Materials and go to shoham, so onyx, cornelian, chrysoprase, right? Again, nobody really knows exactly which stones were used, but at any rate, so they made them. Misubot would be usually translated as inlaid, resting upon. Mishpatzot, zahav. So misubot, mishpatzot, zahav, nifutachot, pituche chotam al shemot bnei Israel. To make a long story short, they made the shoham stones that go on the shoulder of the ephod. V'yasem otam al kitfot ha'ephod avnei zikaron livnei Israel. So these are now called the stones of memory, of remembrance. Okay, so why does it say that? Because when Aaron goes into the holy area, or maybe even into the Holy of Holies, or both, he's carrying the names of Israel on these stones as a remembrance before Yahweh. Okay, and we saw that earlier. In fact, it was mentioned here. Let's see if we can get a chapter and verse on that one. Okay. All right, so that would be in Exodus 28. Let's take a look at Exodus 28 for a second. Just grab the English for now, just to make it go more quickly, because I want to find that one verse. Here it is. It's Exodus 28:12. Aaron is to bear the names on his shoulders as a memorial before Yahweh. And let's look at that in Hebrew. So that's Exodus 28:12. So Exodus 28:12 says, "Wasanta et shtei ha'avanim al kitfot ha'ephod avnei zikaron livnei Israel." So here it's called the same thing, right? Avnei zikaron. This is stones of remembrance, or stones of memorial. Maybe you can translate it as remembering. And here it's the same thing. It's called avnei zikaron. Right here. Okay, avnei zikaron in 39:7. But avnei zikaron, so they're basically memorial stones, or stones, remembrance stones, right? Livnei Israel, of the children of Israel, for the children of Israel. Nasa Aaron et shmotam livnei Yahweh al shtei ktefav lizikaron. And Aaron shall carry the names of Israel, of the children of Israel, before Yahweh on al shtei ktefav, on his two shoulders, lizikaron, as a memorial, as a remembrance. So the idea is that when Aaron goes into the holy area, or the Holy of Holies, right, which he only goes in once, one day a year, on the 10th day of the 7th month, on Yom Kippurim, then he's to carry then these two shoulder stones, each one having 6 of the names of the children of Israel, first 6, and then the second 6 in the order of birth. So it's as if he's carrying the names of the children of Israel as a remembrance before Yahweh, right? He's reminding Yahweh of the names of the children of Israel wherever he goes, and whenever he goes into the holy area or the Holy of Holies. Okay? So that's the idea of the Shoham stones. Ma perek אנחנו מובא, ben Africa, okay? We are in Exodus 39, verse 7. Exodus 39, verse 7. Okay? Type that in. Okay? There you go. Okay? So, ben Africa. It should not be ma perek anachnu ba, it should be be'ez perek anachnu, or ez perek anachnu ba. And not ba, it should be bo. But, so. At any rate, we're in Exodus 39:7. I'll just leave that up for a second. So that's the idea, right? When Aaron goes in, these 2 stones, so everyone knows about the Choshen Mishpat, the breastplate. But everyone's stones are on the shoulders of Aaron, right? 6 names on each side, and they're supposed to be the memorial, the remembrance. Wherever Aaron goes, he's bearing the names of the children of Israel with him as he goes in to see Yahweh. Okay, verse 8. So we're now in 39:8. Ya'asat et Hoshen. The Hoshen is usually translated as the breastplate, as we saw before. It's definitely Todah, Bivakasha, Alodavar, in Ba'adama. Take that down now. So the Hoshen, oops, it's 28. So this Hoshen, as we've mentioned before, is usually translated as the breastplate, but nobody knows for sure what it really is. Okay. Again, we can look at some comments on that. So this is 39:8. 39:8. So Robert Alter translates it as breastplate, but he's not going to have a comment here. He'll have a comment back probably when it's spoken about here. So it's in Exodus 28:15. So let's look at his comment for Exodus 28:15. We've spoken about that before. I think we actually read his comment, but let's look at it again. Alrighty, Exodus 28. And we said 15. So Exodus 28:15. Shall make a breastplate of judgment. So it translates it as breastplate of judgment, but the judgment mishpat function of the breastplate is executed through the Urim V'Tumim, verse 30, that are set in it. Because the purpose of the device is oracular, some prefer to render mishpat as decision, although there is evidence elsewhere that the Urim and Tumim were also often used to determine who's... Okay, so that's not the one I was looking for. I was looking for another comment, which I can't find right now. Well, let's read this. There have been endless latter-day efforts to reconstruct the wardrobe and to parse the technical sartorial. I don't even know what the word sartorial means. Volk, you know what the word sartorial means? Sartorial? Robert Alter often uses define sartorial. Relating to tailoring, clothes, or style of dress. Thank you. Never heard that before. Okay, sartorial terms. I guess it sounds like sartorial Taylor terms that are used to represent it, but these can be no more than amalgams of guesses and approximations, right? Though the present translation assumes that breastplate is still plausible for Hebrew Hoshen, etymology uncertain. Others contend it is a smaller breast piece or even a pouch. So that's what we're saying. The ephod, the Hebrew word suggested binding or wrapping around, evidently was a kind of apron, although opinions differ on this. There's secondary meaning as an oracular device. So the basic idea is we don't know exactly what the Choshen HaMishpat was. We don't know what this breastplate of judgment was. It's usually understood as a breastplate, as we see in the picture here, but as Robert also said, these are all guesses. So that would be the breastplate right over there. That's the Choshen HaMishpat. These are the onyx stones. This is the ephod, this gold thing. And then the Choshen HaMishpat and the onyx stones are attached to the ephod, right? They're basically attached, I guess you could say. Okay, but we'll go with we're gonna go with breastplate for now. Maseh chashev kemaseh ephod. Choshen maseh choshev. So the work of a designer or the work of an artisan. Kemaseh ephod. Like the work of the ephod. Zahav tchelet v'argman v'tolat shani v'shesh mash zar. So the choshen, the breastplate, is also to be made out of the same materials, it would seem. Right, as we could see it there. And then there are stones inlaid into it. Rabua haya kaful. So it's square. Doubled is kaful. Asut choshen zeret arko was zeret rochbo kaful. So that's basically what it's saying is it was square, and it was a zeret. A zeret is a handbreadth by handbreadth. A handbreadth, if I remember correctly, I believe is the distance between. Let's see if I can do this right. So handbreadth would be the distance. I think it's between. Between this finger and this finger. So the width from here to here. I might be wrong. It might include the thumb, but I don't think so. I think handbreadth means from, basically from here to here. But let's look it up. Handbreadth. So if that's the case, so the different types of handbreadths, right? There we go. So the one in Egypt, biblical use, palm or handbreadth. Three inches. Okay, so even though, again, it's all speculation, 3 inches. So the Choshen HaMishpat is quite small, right? 3 inches is going to be, so let's look again at this Choshen HaMishpat. Okay, 3 inches is pretty darn small. That means that each stone is about, or each place for the stones to be placed is about 1 inch, right? Because we're seeing that the entire Choshen, Zeret Arko was Zeret Rochbo. So it's a handbreadth in width and a handbreadth in length. Okay, so it's basically 3 inches by 3 inches. That's pretty darn small, right? So 3 inches is indeed about this width right here. Oops, I forgot to put it back. So it's about this width, the width between from here, from here to here. That's pretty darn small, right? The width of 4 fingers. That's not too wide. Okay, so which means that each row, right? There are 4 rows and there are 3 columns. So each column is going to be about just an inch wide, and each row is going to be less than an inch wide. It'll be 3/4 of an inch wide. I'm sorry, it'll be 3/4 of an inch wide. So 4 rows over 3 inches, right? So that's pretty darn small. I don't know why it's depicted so large on the If I do here, it's about double the size depicted. But okay. Unless I'm missing something in the translation. Let's just look at Exodus 39:9 in the English for 1 second. So they fashioned the breastplate, the work of a skilled craftsman. They made it like the ephod of gold and of blue, purple, and scarlet yarn, and finely twisted linen. It was square, a span long, and a span wide, and folded double. Here we have the footnote for span. They're saying span is 9 inches. That makes more. Let's go back up here. So 9 inches. Okay, according to this footnote over here. So zeret is not a handbreadth, it's a span. Who knows? I'm not going to go hunt it down right now. Okay, we could look at different commentaries on what a zeret means, etc., etc. But again, we're going to leave it at that. Okay, let's go back to the Hebrew here. Exodus 39:9. Okay, so we have 4 rows, and then it goes through. I'm just going to skip through this because it's just a replay of Exodus 28. Right, in fact, there's a note here. Right, so we'll just look at it in the English for 1 second. And we just have all of the rows listed. Just basically recapping of Exodus 28. So there's nothing to be said there, really. I mean, there's a lot to be said, but we're not going to do it right now. So I want to move ahead. And again, this is also kind of a replay. Basically, it's saying what they were going to do in 28, in Exodus 28. Now it's saying what they did do. Let's just pick it up in 21, in Exodus 39:21. With the Hoshen. Et the Hoshen mitabotav. So what is this verb yirkasu? Rachas only appears twice. Bind, related to the Syrian rakasu. And there's no other connection there. So again, that's assumed, right? But it makes sense from the context. Okay? So, and that was 21. Oops, 39:21. So they bound the breastplate. Mitabotav. So tabat is a ring. So using its rings or by its rings to the tabat ha'ephod. So there were rings in the breastplate and there were rings in the ephod, and that's how the breastplate was bound to the ephod. So I guess kind of like this. Oops, I forgot to put on the. So kind of like this, right? Let's see if we can see a picture of that somewhere. Not really. It's not a detailed enough picture or large enough picture to really point it out. So so it's bound. So the rings, okay. So the rings of the choshen of the breastplate were bound to the rings of the ephod by a string of tchelet. Now we've heard petir tchelet elsewhere, right? that the petite techelet is to be put on the corners of the garment, on kanfei habigadim, right? On the corners of our garments, we're supposed to have a tzitzit. We're supposed to have gidilim or tzitzit, which are kind of twisted strings, like the tzitz. The tzitz is also. This is the tzitz on the whatchamacall, on the Kohen Gadol, on the chief priest. And so just as we have on our garments a petite techelet, so here the ephod, let's not forget that the choshen is attached to the ephod by a petite techelet, by a string of techelet running through the two rings. Okay, so it's a petite techelet that's linking the two rings. Okay, what's the significance? I'm not sure. Is it meant to serve a similar purpose as the petite techelet that we place on our garments? In other words, that we're supposed to see it, look at it, and remember the mitzvot of Yahweh? Or is it just because there's a lot of material here, or a lot of use of techelet and argaman, etc., etc.? Oh, where the cats are in the sunroom? You can let them out. The Sufi's crying. Okay? And maybe let Lavi go out if he wants to, because it kind of stopped raining. Okay? He doesn't like to be trapped in there. Okay, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. I'm going to open the back door. Let Sue come in and let Lavi do what he wants. What? What's that? I can't hear what you're saying. Okay. Alrighty. So, all right. So, where were we? Basically, it goes on, right? Well, let's read this. Liot al sheva ephod, al chesheva ephod. Oops, my battery's about to go dead. I'll have to charge in a second. So it's meant to be on the cheshev is translated in, let's see how often it's translated as like intricate work or something like that. So this is 3921. Everett Fox translates it as they tied the breastplate from its rings to the rings of the ephod with a thread of blue violet to be fixed on the designed band of the ephod. So designed band from the word choshev, which means to think or create, or to not create, but think or design. So where were we? Oops. Yeah, that's 39. Ephod on the designed band, or the band of the ephod. So what would that be? I'm not sure, to be honest. So this is the avnet. Is it this? I can't remember now. It might be this here. Volk, she drives me crazy. You got to get her out, okay? Please. Okay, she's meowing. So what? What'd you do? You closed the door again? Okay, just let Lovey be, okay? He can take care of himself. The tough little kitty cat. All right. Okay, at any rate, at any rate, it's tied, I guess, what we see here, yeah, it must be tied here down to this. This must be the cheshev. I'd have to go over and look again at verse 28, but I don't want to do it right now. So at any rate, somehow or another, at any rate, the point of tying it down with this petit tchelet, with this string of light blue, is that so wouldn't, they translate it here as come loose. Let's look at this word yizach. Not a very common word. In fact, it only appears twice. Remove, displace, zachach is the underlying root according to this. Arabic zaha, push or thrust away. Amharic zuh, move away, etc. So that's the way it's usually translated as. Let's see if Robert Alter has anything to say about that one. 28. Yeah, we're in the wrong one. We have to go back to 39. Should keep two windows open of this. Exodus 39. And we're down in 21. And they fasten the breastplate from its rings to the rings of the ephod with an indigo strand. So it's interesting, he translates tchelet as indigo, assuming that it doesn't mean a specific substance, but rather color, to be upon the band of the ephod, and the breastplate not slip from the ephod. So he translates this phrase over here, as that the breastplate not slip from the ephod, as Yahweh has charged Moses. Any comment about that? Verse 21. The Samaritan version and an Exodus text found at Qumran insert here, and they made the Urim and the Tumim as the Lord had charged Moses. Interesting. So it's not only the Samaritan version, but one of the Qumran. That's fascinating, actually. Okay. So, at any rate, that breastplate is supposed to stay well fastened to the ephod. It's essentially supposed to be, not move from the ephod. Moshe, as Yahweh had commanded Moshe. Additional priestly garments. Okay, I'm going to go get the charger. So if you hang on for 1 second, I'll be right back. I'm not going to put on music or anything like that, but it'll be a blank screen for just a couple of minutes. Be right back. Whoa. What? Thank you. What's the problem? You got all the problem you want to fight? Well, then get that other cat out of here. Get him out of here. Oh, there we go. No! I got it. They're gonna still continue to fight. Shit. What was my curse? Just brought in. Shh. That cat is a menace.
Yeah, there was the other one here.
Cat is a real menace, seriously.
It needs to be castrated.
Anywho, all right, let me get back to study. All right. Whole cat society going on here. All righty. I mean, that cat is so vicious. You see how to basically hold a plate in front of me so I didn't scratch it. I got to chase him away with the plate. That was ridiculous. Okay. Yeah. All righty. Back from that. Sorry about that. As I mentioned, we have two cats, so we've got a whole cat society going on here. Are there any questions, any comments at this point? Anybody? Speak up now or forever hold your peace. Okay. So, right. So there we are. Additional priestly garments. I think we're going to skip that part. Because it's basically just a replay. Maybe I'll just read through it very quickly. Verse 22, Ya'as et ma'il ha'efod. So here's the ma'il. This thing underneath, that's the ma'il, that kind of long garment. So this is the ephod. So just to review, if you can follow my mouse, I hope you can. I think so. Oops, I don't even have it set correctly. There we go. Yes, I think so. So this is the ephod, this kind of yellow-looking thing. This is the Choshen HaMishpat. These are the Avnei Shoham. Okay. This is the, I believe this is the cheshev, the kind of knitted belt. This, I might be wrong about that though. This down here, this is the ma'il. Underneath this other garment that goes all the way down to the priest's feet, this is the ketonet. Okay, I think they translate that. They translate this as the, I can't remember the English translations. The robe, maybe. I don't remember. At any rate, this is the ketonet, and this over here, this red sash that's hanging down to his feet. This is the avnet. And then on the head, we have this is the tzitz, I believe, that says Kodesh Le'oah, the Yahweh. And over here is the, I forgot, but we're going to see it in a second. Okay, so let's read through. I'm just going to read through. I'm not going to really do any commentary until we get down to verse 32. Excuse me, I have to see. All right. ויעש את המעיל האפוד מעשה אורג כליל תכלת. לפי המעיל בתוכו כפי תחרה. שפה לפיו סביב לו יקריה. יעשו על שולי המעיל רימוני תכלת וארגמן בתולעת שני משזר. So that's the, on the edges of the ma'il, there are the pomegranates made out of tchelet, argaman, tolat, shani, mashzar. Let's see if we can see that in the picture here. So these are these things over here. So these are the pomegranates down here that are made out of fabric. Really beautiful kind of uniform. Verse 25, Yasup amone zahav, tahor, وَيِتْنُوا et pa'amonim b'toch ha'rimonim. So inside each of these pomegranates are gold bells. Al shulei ha'ma'ir, on the edges of the undergarment of the, how do they translate it? The robe. Saviv b'toch ha'rimonim. Okay, so all around. So these here, these things that we see here, should we blow this up a little bit more? No, doesn't go. These things, this may be the other thing. Okay, so these things over here are gold bells inside pomegranates around the edge of the ma'il, around the edge of the robe. Okay. המון או הרימון, פעמון או הרימון על שולי המעיל סביב לשרת כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Verse 27, ועשו את הכתונת, sorry, it's not the כתונת, it's הכתנות, שש מעשה אורג לאהרון ולבניו. So this is the katnot, this other undergarment that goes all the way down to the feet, below the ma'il, for Aaron and his sons, et hamitznefet, shesh, ואת פערי המגבעות, שש, ואת מכנסי הבד, שש משזר. So, oh boy, so if I am not mistaken, so the mitznefet, this is the hat, is the mitznefet. Turban. And then there's the migbaot, that also has to do with the hat, although I'm not sure exactly what part of the hat it is. Shesh et michnaseh ba'ad, shesh mazar, and then you have the undergarment pants, which I don't think can be seen. I think they're underneath the kotnot. White havnet. So the avnet is the sash. This is the avnet, this scarlet belt or sash that hangs all the way down to the feet. White avnet, shesh mashzar, tchelet v'argaman v'tol'at shani, ma'aseh rokem, kasher tziwa, yahweh, et Moshe. Verse 30, wa'asu et tzitz nezer hakodesh, zahav ta'or v'yichtov alav michtav, pituchei chotam, kodesh le-Yahweh. So this is the tzitz over here. And tzitz here they translate as plate. ויתנו עליו פתיות תכלת, לתת על המצנפת. So, and it's attached. So this tzitz is attached to the mitznefet. So this gold plate that says Kodesh LeYahweh is attached to the turban with a p'tiyot techel. Surah, please, it's just crazy. Please put them in the garage if you need to. All right. Okay. So it's attached. So the tzitz, this gold plate, is attached to the mitznefet with a p'tiyot techel. Now that's interesting because that's the second time here we have tzitz, and it's attached to the mitznefet with a p'tiyot techel, with a string of blue. We also know that in the tzitzit that we're supposed to wear in our garments, it's supposed to have a p'tiyot techel. This is called tzitz. That's called tzitzit. It's from the same root. So I'm wondering now, and I've never really thought of this before, if the tzitz attached to the mitznefet with the string of blue with the p'tiyot techel is related, or let's say the other way around, the tzitzit, the p'tiyot techel that we wear in the tzitzit, is somehow supposed to be, I guess, the Israelite version, maybe watered down version. I wouldn't call it that, but the related version that the Israelites wear, which is somehow a hearkening back to the tzitz, which is attached to the mitznefet with the p'tiyot techel. Just a thought. So, and I'm wondering if any of the commentaries pick up on that. So let's look at tzitz. So it's in Exodus 28:36. Let's get some commentary on Exodus 28:36. Again, I should really just, let's do it this way. Open up two of these because I keep on jumping back between 39 and Exodus 28. So let's go here to Oops. Good enough. So Exodus 28, 30. No, it's in Exodus 28, 36. So diadem, I think, is a crown. And he uses a lot of these fancy words. Jeweled crown or headband worn as a symbol of sovereignty. So it's basically like a crown, right? So that's the headband. So we're looking for some commentary on that. And you shall put it on it an indigo strand that it be on the turban. At the front of the turban shall it be. The turban is in its nefet. So let's get some commentary here. Let's look at 36. This is another term about which there is dispute. The primary meaning of the Hebrew tzitzit or tzitz is blossom. And so this might be a blossom-shaped gold ornament bound upon the forehead, the sort the Egyptians were known to use. In poetry, tzitz appears in parallelism with nezer, crown. So that doesn't really say that much. It's back a little. Well, really, the cat has to be out here now. All right. Put her in the garage or put her in the back. All right. She's driving me crazy. Or if you want, you can close the back door and put her in the sunroom. All right. Go ahead. Just leave me out of it. Actually, it's not a good idea because where are you going to eat it? The table's a mess and there's fish all over it. So no, just wait. All right. I'll be done soon and we'll have chocolate together. Okay. Okay. Right. So this is explaining the golden bells. It's something else. So let's look at seats. Blossom, flower, shining thing. And now let's look at tzitzit. Yeah, put her in there, please, and let Lavi rest in here. Okay. Tzitzit. So therefore, we have to go to. Let me close some of these out. It's Exodus 39. This is Exodus 39. So this is duplicate. So let's go for a second to. I don't know where that came from. Okay, let's go to Deuteronomy. No, it's not 4:6. Where is it? I have to remember where it is. Let me look it up. Okay, it's Deuteronomy 22:12. So let's go to Deuteronomy 22:12. Oh, no, I wanted specifically the word tzitzit. One more time. Numbers 15. Right. So we all know this from the rabbinical Shema. وَيُمَرْ يَحْوَى الْمُشَ لَمُور دَبَر الْبَنِي إسرائيل وَأَمَرْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ وَأَصُوا لَهِمْ تzitzit al كَنْفَي بِيديهم لِضُرُّهُم وَنَفْنُوا على تzitzit הכנף תכלת. והיה לכם לציצית הורידתם אותו, סחטתם את כל מסוות יהוה, עיניכם אשר אתם זונים. Okay, at any rate, so here we have ועשו ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם. So here it's translated as tassel or lock. Hair or forehead, tassel on flowing ends. Right, so the underlying fringes, tassels, but it comes from it. So it's the feminine of tzitz, right? So we saw tzitz is what is. This is this thing on the Kohen Gadol's head. This is the tzitz here. So if we look at tzitz, it's related to blossom, flower, shining thing, meaning dubious. Okay. Plate of gold constituting the diadem on the front of the high priest's mitre. So what's all the connection here? So tzitz, blossom, flower. So what would be the connection between tzitz and tzitzit? I'm looking at the same one here. This is tzitz. And here I want to look at tzitzit. So here I have to go back. All right, it's Numbers 15:38. Let's look at some commentary on Numbers 15:38. We also know that in Deuteronomy 22, it's called Gdilim instead of tzitzit. Gdilim is known as braids. But let's look at this. So it was Numbers 15. It was 38. So Robert Alter translates that as fringe. Skirts of the garment are literally wings, knafayim. The garment would typically be a kind of tunic, and so it would not have corners exactly. As I've been saying for years. And the reference is thus to the hem or bottom edge. I agree 100%. The fringe elsewhere in Hebrew tzitzit refers to a lock of hair. It's made up of uncut threads extending down from the hem. That makes a lot of sense to me. I like this guy. Though indigo may be a reasonable approximation of the color in question, it should be noted that the dye is not derived from a plant, as is indigo, but from a substance secreted by the murex, harvested off the coast of Phoenicia. So he believes, okay, so it's Robert Alter who believes it is actually this creature, the murex trunculus or the hexaplex trunculus, sea snail. I'm sorry. Yeah, sea snail. The extraction and preparation of this dye. Okay, we can skip all of this. One may infer that the indigo twist was a token of the idea that Israel should become a kingdom of priests and a holy nation, and perhaps also that as the covenanted people, metaphorically God's firstborn, the nation as a whole had royal status. Remnants of clothing found in the caves inhabited by Bar Kokhba's men, but that's much later. That's in the 2nd century CE. Demonstrate that such indigo twists were still worn at the hems of ordinary outer garments in the 2nd century CE. Eventually, the indigo color was dropped. Okay, we can skip all that. The important things we want to get from this. So here, this is the salient point that I want to pick out. The Petit Techelet the indigo twist, as he translates it, or as the thread of blue. It was used for royal garments in many places in the Mediterranean, Israel, in Mediterranean region, but this is here. In Israel, it was also used for priestly garments and for the cloth furnishings of the tabernacle. One may infer that the indigo twist was a token of the idea that Israel should become a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So there we go. It's exactly what we were saying, that perhaps that the petit techelet that we're supposed to wear, according to Numbers 15 and Deuteronomy 22, on the edges of our garments, is hearkening to the petit techelet that ties the tzitz of the Kohen Gadol to the mitznefet, right? It's tied with a petit techelet. So here we have a tzitz with a petit techelet. In our garments, we're supposed to put a petit techelet on a tzitzit, both from the same root of tzitz, flower or lock or fringe or tassel, right? So one of the important things is that, and I completely agree with Robert Alter here, I'm going to read this again. Okay, the skirts of the garment are literally wings. Kanafayim, the garment would typically be a kind of tunic and so would not have corners. Exactly. So the rabbis believe that you should only have this petit techelet on this string of blue on garments with four corners, because they understand the kanfei as being the corners. It says Adam kanfota aretz, the four corners of the earth. So that's their ridiculous interpretation, and the reference is thus to the hem or bottom edge, which is what I've been saying. I've been saying this for years, so I agree 100% with Robert Alter, right? That kanfei, the kanfei habeged means the edge, means exactly that bottom edge that goes around the garment. The fringe, elsewhere, the Hebrew tzitzit refers to a lock of hair is made up of uncut threads extending down from the hem. And then you're supposed to have an indigo twist somewhere in there. So is it twisted through that bottom hem? Is it hanging from the bottom hem? Again, kind of unclear. But yeah. But the main idea that we want to bring out here is the relationship between the petit techelet that's on the tzitzit, right? The tzitzit, which is on the kanfei habeged, kanfei habegadim, the edge of the garment, and the petit techelet that ties the tzitz to the mitznefet on the Kohen Gadol. And as Robert Alter picks up on this too, and says that the petit techelet that's on the tzitzit of the kanfei habegadim of the Israelites is perhaps a hearkening, or perhaps a hearkening back, or a hint, or a parallelism, a hearkening to the or the watered down version, shall we say, of the petit techelet that holds the tzitz of the Kohen Gadol to the mitznefet. And I like his comment here that he says that somehow maybe that implies that all of Israel is a kingdom of priests, because we all have that petit techelet on the tzitzit of our garments. Okay, so that's that. Hope that kind of makes sense. Any questions? Any comments? Anybody? All right, so let's get back into it here. So tzitzit nezer, hakodesh zahav tahor, vaychtov alav michtav pituchei chotam kodesh liyawa. So that's what's written on the tzitzit. Vaytnu alav petit techelet letet al hamitznefet milama'ala. Okay, and now the work is finished. So let's read this. Moshe proves the works. V'tachel kol avodat mishkan ohel moed. So all of the work of again, we're translating Mishkan as the dwelling tent, right? We said we don't like the word tabernacle. It's usually translated as tabernacle, but we're translating it as dwelling tent to capture the idea of Mishkan, and the idea that it's often translated as tabernacle, which we saw is related to the Latin taberna, which means tent, or also tavern, right? That's where we get the English word tavern, from taberna, which means tent in Latin. So we're calling it a dwelling tent. So Techel kol avodat mishkan ohel moed. So all of the work of the dwelling tent, or the dwelling, shall we say? Because here it uses the word ohel, which means tent. The dwelling of the ohel moed, of the tent of meeting. ויעשו בני ישראל ככל אשר ציווה יהוה את משה כן עשו. And all of Israel did according to what Yahweh had commanded. יביאו את המשכן אל משה, את האוהל ואת כל כליו, כבשיו, קרשיו, בריחיו, עמודיו, אדניו. So they presented, which is literally brought, but really presented it all to Moshe. Let's get a little commentary here, 32. Where are we? No, far gone. So we want to go back to Exodus 39. Okay, so here Robert Alter says, as Umbutter Kasuto and others have noted, this passage that summarizes the completion of the tabernacle echoes the report of God's completion of creation, Genesis 2, 1 through 3. So what are they saying there? Okay, so it's saying that put some of these off. Genesis 2. says, ויחולו השמיים והארץ וכל צבאם. יכול אלוהים ביום השביעי מלאכתו אשר עשה, וישפוט ביום השביעי מכל מלאכתו אשר עשה. So it's saying it's an imitation of that verse. ותחל כל עבודת משכן אוהל מועד, ויעשו בני ישראל ככל אשר ציווה, יהוה את משה כן עשו. Okay. I don't think there's much of a connection, but okay. Except that the work was done. That's the connection. And blessing at the end, they're saying. So he's saying. So verse 43, וירא משה את כל המלאכה והנה עשו אותה כאשר ציווה יהוה כן עשו ויברך אותם משה. Okay, I don't really see a very huge connection there, but interesting point. One should recall that the Hebrew for tabernacle, mishkan, means dwelling, right? We're translating as dwelling tent. God's dwelling place or abode in the midst of the people of Israel. Human effort adhering to divine direction emulates the Creator by applying human crafts to build God a harmonious, beautiful, and intricately constructed dwelling place on earth. Okay. See if Ibn Ezra has anything interesting to say here. So this is 39:32. תאכל כמשקל ותרב מסת בנימין. So he's making a grammatical point. I'm not sure exactly what he's saying. Okay. Got it. Okay, so here's the key. Both vatechel and vaterev are short forms of a verb ending in a, right? So the hey is missing, even though the underlying root has a hey at the end, kala. And he's saying in Genesis 43:34, Rabah, Masit Binyamim. So he's making a grammatical point, just comparing the fact that since both have roots ending in hey, good, nice point. I really like the Ibn Ezra so far, but I'm not going to dwell on that. ויביאו את המשכן, והנה את מטריו והנה את מטריו ויתדותיו, כמו את כלאי החצר ואת עמודיו ואת אדניה. Okay, so he's just comparing this to Exodus 35:17. And now we already go into the next chapter. So, okay, so Ibn Ezra doesn't have any interesting stuff, but not things that I want to point out here. So, let's see. Let's go back here. وَأَتْ مِخْسَي أُرَوْتْ حَائِلِيم. Well, let's see if there are any other interesting commentaries here. We'll go to comments. Oops. Yeah, it's going all the way back to 39:1, so we don't want that. We want 39:32. Not much more than 5 months. That's a good point. Though there was a great deal of fine work, such as it used to be the work of time, embroidering and engraving not only in gold but in precious stones, yet they went through it with it in a little time, and with the greatest exactness imaginable. The workmen were taught of God, and so were kept from making blunders, which would have retarded them. And the people were hardy and zealous in the work, and impatient till it was finished. God had prepared their hearts. Okay, so it's kind of a preachy commentary. Here we have some Jesus stuff. We'll just skip that. Okay. I don't see any particularly. This is an interesting point. Everything was brought to Moses for his approval, not perhaps all things at once, but each as it was finished, and was judged by him according to the pattern which he had seen upon the mount. So remember, Moshe was shown everything the way it was supposed to be up on the mountain. That's back in Exodus 25 and Exodus 26. And so now this commentator, pulpit commentary, whatever the heck that is making the point that Moshe is looking at it to make sure it's in line with what he was shown by Yahweh up on the top of Mount Sinai. The order observed in the enumeration is nearly but not quite the order in which it has been stated that the various things were made. We must suppose that if Moses disapproved of anything, it was rejected, but no disapproval is mentioned. Moses did look upon all the work, blah, blah, blah. Accordingly, Moses concluded all by blessing them, thereby signifying not his own approval only, but the divine approval of their diligence and obedience. Okay, good comment. 1 second. So here's an interesting point. The different things are again mentioned one by one by the tent in Exodus 39:33, where to understand the two tent cloths, the one of purple and the other of goat's hair, by which the dwelling Mishkan was made into a tent. From this, it is perfectly obvious that the variegated cloth formed the inner walls of the dwelling, or covered the boards on the inner side, and the goat's hair cloth formed the other covering. Moreover, it is also obvious that this is the way in which Ohel is to be understood from the fact that in the list of the things belonging to the Ohel, the first to be mentioned are the gold and copper hooks with which the two halves of the drapery that formed the tent were joined together, and then after the boards, bolts, pillars, and sockets as a subordinate to the tent cloths and only intended to answer the purpose of spreading them out into a tent of dwelling. Okay, so it's kind of a more technical point about the construction of the tents, which I don't want to dwell on here. Alrighty. We're going to go back to the Hebrew here, verse 34. מכסה אורות האלים המאדמים, ואת מכסה אורות התחשים, ואת פרוכת המסך, את ארון העדות, ואת בדאו, ואת הכפורת, the ark cover, את השולחן, את כל כליו, ואת לחם הפנים, את מנורה הטהורה, את נרותיה, נרות המערכה, ואת כל כליה, ואת שמן המאור, את מזבח הזהב, ואת שמן המשחה, ואת קטורת הסמים, ואת מסך פתח האוהל, את מזבח הנחושת, ואת מחבר הנחושת, אשר לו את בדאו, ואת כל כליו, ואת הקיר, ואת קנו, את קלעי החצר, את עמודיה, ואת אדניה, ואת המסך לשאר החצר, את מיתריו, ואת יתדותיה, ואת כל כלי עבודת המשכן לאוהל מועד, את בגדי השרד, we had that word srad before, which you said could either mean woven or officiating. לשרת בקודש את בגדי הקודש לארון הכהן ואת בגדי בניו לכהן. ככל אשר ציווה יהוה את משה כן עשו בני ישראל את כל העבודה. ירא משה את כל המלאכה והנה עשו אותה כאשר ציווה יהוה. So that's exactly what the Ibn Ezra was referring to. Right? Was it the Ibn Ezra? No, it wasn't. It was one of the other commentaries, the pulpit commentary or something like that. Right? So Moshe is taking a look at all the work, and he says, "Kechol asher tziwa Yahweh et Moshe ken asu bnei Israel et kol ha'avodah yar Moshe et kol ha'melacha v'hine asu ota kasher tziwa Yehovah." They'd done it exactly as Yehovah had commanded. Moshe had been shown a vision of what it was supposed to look like, and here now they're bringing him the final product, and he's inspecting it, and it's good. Gives it the big thumbs up. Ken asu v'yivarech otam Moshe, and Moshe blessed them. And who did he bless? I guess according to verse 32, he blessed Bnei Israel because it says, "V'yasu Bnei Israel kachol asher tziwa Yehovah et Moshe ken asu." Okay, so here when it says he blessed them, that's referring back to verse 32, and the ones he blessed would be Bnei Israel, the children of Israel. And that's the end of chapter 39. It's getting a bit late here. We'll go a little bit longer. And then we will have finished Exodus chapter 40. So, let's take a break for 1 second here. Give me 1 second. Do this later. Alrighty, so back to Torah here. Okay, verse 40, chapter 40. וידבר יהוה אל משה לאמור ביום החודש הראשון באחד החודש תקים את משכן אוהל מועד. So Moses is telling, Yahweh is telling Moses to establish or to set up the Mishkan. So all the work has been brought to Moses, but he hasn't set it up now. And now Yahweh is telling him to set it up on the first day of the first month of the second year. So basically just about a year after the Exodus. The Exodus, of course, was on the 15th, the midnight of the 15th of the first month. But did something specific happen on the first day of the first month? I don't think so. On the 10th day of the first month, if we go back to Exodus 12, I believe it is, they were told to take a lamb and then slaughter it on the 14th. Right, so it's Exodus 12:3. Tell the whole community of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, each man is to take a lamb for his family, one for each household. But nothing specific happens on the first day of the first month on the year of the Exodus. Right? So this month is to be for you the first month of the year. We know it's the month of the Aviv, but on the first year, the year of the Exodus, the first day of the first month has no special significance except that it's the first day of the month in which the Exodus will occur. Okay, but here the tabernacle. So it would have been more interesting or more relevant, I guess, to set it up on the 15th day of the first month, but then again, that already would have been a holiday, right? So maybe on the 14th day of the first month, but I'm not going to second guess God here. I'm just saying that the first day of the first month has no specific significance. Let's see again what some of the commentators may say here. So we have to go here. So no commentary here. Yeah, the first month on the first of the month, since the month of the new year of the new grain, Aviv, or in later Hebrew usage, Nisan, has been fixed as the first month, Exodus 12:2. One may infer that the tabernacle was set up and consecrated 1 year less 2 weeks after the departure from Egypt. That's what we just said. Thus, verse 17 refers to the first month in the second year, that is the second year of the Exodus, right? Okay. So let's see, do any of the other commentaries pick up on that? Though the work was now complete and all the parts of the tabernacle were ready, Moses did not at once proceed to erect it. So when he first went up into Sinai, Exodus 24:16, so now he waited for divine summons and distinct command, fixing the time for him to do that which he knew that he had to do. There's an importance and a fitness in times and seasons which the great Father often reserves it to himself to determine. The New Testament quote, Moses felt this and waited till after time the summons came. God fixed for the erection the first day of the first month, the New Year's Day of the first year of freedom. At the same time, he gave directions fixing the order in which all should be done and determining the position of the various articles. Okay? That's a preachy commentary. I'm not interested in that. Let's see if there's anything here. Okay. All right. Nothing too earth-shaking here. Let's see if there's anything for 42. Okay. Okay, so some working out of time, which I don't want to get into right now. It's the same as the last verses. Okay, so nothing earth-shattering here, shattering here. But we do see that it's the first day of the first month, so it's the second year, right? So almost a year after the Exodus. ושמת שם את ארון העדות וסקלתה על הארון את הפרוכת והבאת את השולחן וערכת את ערכו, one of the commentators mentions that this is the showbread, והבאת את המנורה והעלית את נרותיה ונתת את מזבח הזהב לקטורת לפני ארון העדות ושמת את מסך הפתח למשכן. So basically the description that's being given here is the tabernacle, we're not translating as tabernacle, we're translating as dwelling tent, is being built from the inside out, right? The first thing that's mentioned is the Ark of the Covenant, and then the parochet, the ark, the veil that covers over the Ark of the Covenant. Remember, there's nothing else in there except the Ark of the Covenant. Also the manna, and also the later on the almond branch from Aaron that proves his chosenness by God to be the priests. At any rate, we have the shulchan, so we're working from the inside out. Then we have the showbread that's being mentioned, and the menorah. So that's in the Kodesh area, right? Remember, you walk into the Kodesh, you've got the on the, let's see, you're facing west on the left-hand side, I believe is the menorah. So that would be on the south, and on the north side is the showbread table, I believe, or it might be reversed, but that's the way I remember it right now. And then in the middle, you have the Mizbeach Toret. Right? So it's being basically built from the inside out, from the most holy place to the working outward. So at Masacha Petach LeMishkan, so after all of that, so the gold altar for the incense is placed, and then the Masach, the cover that covers over that entire area. Okay. נתת את מזבח העולה לפני פתח משכן אל מועד. And then we have the sacrifice, the altar of sacrifices. נתת את הכיור בין אוהל מועד ובין המזבח ונתת שם מים. Then you have the big laver, right? I think we have a picture of that. I can open it up. We're not going to do it now. Wait, how am I going to do this? No, I'd have to set the sharing settings, so we're not going to do it. Shabbat Shalom, Ricky and April. So, yeah, between the outside of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle, you have that, the big tent area, and there you have the altar of sacrifice, and then between the altar of sacrifice and the Mishkan and the dwelling tent or the tabernacle, then you have the kior, the giant copper basin, right? So fill it with water. V'samta et echatzer saviv v'natata et masach she'ar echatzer. So then basically the big those giant, basically the surrounding area is to be placed, right? ולקחת את שמן המשחה ומשכת את המשכן ואת כל אשר בו. So the anointing oil is now poured over the Mishkan, the Kodesh area, the dwelling tent or the tabernacle. I think I'll use tabernacle because that's what it's usually translated as. את כל אשר בו וקידשת אותו ואת כל כליו והיה קודש. So everything gets anointing oil poured over it. ומשכת את מזבח העולה. So now the altar of sacrifice, which is outside of the Mishkan, also has anointing oil poured over it. But called kelav and all of its vessels. V'kidasht et hamizbeach v'haya hamizbeach kodesh kedashim. Now this becomes holy of holies. Okay. Mashachta et akior. That's the laver or the sink or the bowl, or how do they translate it? Wa'et kano wa kidashta oto. So its base, that's the thing, that's the giant sink or the giant bowl that's between the altar and the Mishkan. Kidashta oto, verse 12, Wa'ikrafta et Aaron et banav el petach ohel moed warachatzta otam b'mayim. So Aaron and his sons are to be bathed, brought to the tent of meeting and bathed. Wahilbashta et Aaron et bichdei kodesh, and then they have the priestly garments put on, the holy garments put on them. And then he also has the anointing oil poured over him. Okay, or the priests, the Kohanim have the anointing oil poured over them. And then they can begin their service. Okay, so that's specifically for Aaron. He's the high priest. And now his sons. And so now they don't get the full priestly garment. They don't get the garments of the high priest, but they get a kutanot. They get these thingies. The kutanot is this long robe that reaches down to the feet, not the red thing, but the white thing that reaches down to the feet. That's the kutanot. Kutanot. Let's see what the singular is again. Kutanot. So in Hebrew, it's the kutanot for the plural. Mashachtotam kasher mashachtet avihem, and then they get the anointing oil poured over them. Wakianuli v'haita liot. V'haita liot lahem mashchatam tekunat olam lidorotam. Okay. So that's kind of a tricky sentence. V'haita liot lahem mashchatam. So aita mashchatam. So their anointing was to be for them likunat olam lidorotam, as an eternal priesthood throughout their generations. We'll go back to that in a second. And Moshe did according to everything that Yahweh had commanded. Okay, so let's look at verse 15. It's kind of a tricky one to translate. Let's get a couple of translations on it. Verse 15. So we're in 40:15. So Everett Fox, and you are to anoint them as you anointed their father, that they may be priests for me. That shall become for them their being anointed priesthood for the ages throughout their generations. Wow, kind of a cumbersome translation. That shall become for them, like Talahem, their being anointed priesthood for the ages. So that's how he deals with this kind of awkward sentence structure. Liot lehem mashchatam. So really it's aita mashchatam. So this is and shall be. Aita is the perfect or the past, but with the vavi pulch it becomes the future. So it will be. So what will be? This is in the feminine. This is the third person feminine, singular feminine. In the past or in the perfect with the vavi pulch, which makes it into the future. So the future, basically. And here's the subject, obviously, because this is feminine. This is feminine. So the subject is their anointing shall be. And then it has liot lehem, to be for them. So we have haita and liot, it's the same verb. Liot is to be. So their anointing will be to make them or to be for them kunat olam, or maybe to signify for them their eternal priesthood throughout the generations. It's kind of a difficult one to translate. So that's how Everett Fox dealt with it. Let's see how Robert Alter deals with it. So that was 40. What verse was it again? Verse 15. So it's 40:15. And you shall anoint them as you anointed their father, and they shall be, here we go, and they shall be priests to me, and their anointing shall become for them. So he translates liot lehem, to become for them, an everlasting priesthood for their generations. Okay, so he deals with it, I think, a little bit better than Everett Fox. Let's see if he has any commentary. And their anointing shall become for them an everlasting priesthood for their generations. This rhetorical flourish makes clear that what the priestly writer has in view is not merely a report of the archaic era of origins in the wilderness wanderings, but a model and permanent authorization of the privileged status of the priestly caste of all time. That's fine, but he doesn't really make reference to the kind of awkwardness of this sentence structure here. Okay, Aita liot lehem mashchatam. So he translates this as will be or becoming. Let's do it again. 15. Shall become for them. So that's how he translates, that's how he deals with liot lehem. And their anointing shall become for them. See, I don't know, this is kind of a tough one to translate. Okay? הייתה להיות להם משחתם לכהונת עולם לדורותם. So it's משחתם הייתה להיות להם לכהונת עולם לדורותם. Okay, we'll go with Robert Alter's translation. All right, so Yasma, okay, we read that. Verse 17. We're going to finish in about 10 minutes or so. Okay, so here the Mishkan, the dwelling tent was set up. Dwelling tent for, why is it called the dwelling tent? Because that's where Yahweh dwells, right? Between the cherubim on the ark cover. Yakam Moshe et Mishkan, Wayiten et Adanav, Vesem et Kerashav, Wayiten et Berichav, Wayikem et Amodav. ויפרוש את האוהל על המשכן וישם. So this is now those fabrics that are being thrown over the tabernacle, which is made of the wood planks. וישם את מכסה האוהל עליו מלמעלה כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Verse 20. ויקח וייתן את העדות אל הארון. So here we have the ark, the tablets being placed into the ark. וישם את הבדים על הארון וייתן את הכפורת על הארון מלמעלה. Now we have the ark cover. ויבא את הארון אל המשכן. וישם את פרוכת המסך. So now it says that the ark was brought into the Mishkan. Okay. But earlier it seems to imply that first the Mishkan first the ark was laid and then everything was built around it. But I want to continue. וישם את העבדים על הארון וייתן את הכפורת. Oh, we read that already? יבא את הארון אל המשכן וישם את פרוכת המסך. So this is the veil or the curtain. ויסך על ארון העדות. So this is the curtain that separates from the Holy of Holies to the holy part. So that's going to be, so we're facing west when we walk in. Tzfona is going to be the right. So yes, so the showbread table is on the right, pointing towards the north. And then bread was placed on it. Verse 24. וישם את המנורה באוהל מועד נוכח השולחן אל ירך המשכן נגבה. So when you walk into the holy area, the Kodesh, or into the Mishkan, on the left is going to be the menorah, on the right is going to be the showbread. יעל הנרות לפני יהוה כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. And there he, I think, Ya'al Hanerot, it means lit the candles. Verse 25. So the candles of the menorah were lit. Oops. Verse 25. Yep, that's the way Robert Alter translates it. And Everett Fox translates it as just set up the lamps, not lit. Let's look at Ibn Ezra on that one, if he has anything to say. He's good, Ibn Ezra. I like him. I can't stand Rashi, as I've said many times. Ibn Ezra is great. I like his commentary. But I don't think there's anything on that particular verse. There's not. Okay, so let's go on. So this is the Ketoret. How do you say in English? Ketoret is incense altar. Okay, is placed before the parochet. So the incense altar is placed before the curtain that separates the Mishkan, or the holy part of the Mishkan, from the Holy of Holies, where the ark is. And so he burnt on it the incense, the incense of spices. So that would imply that, yes, that Yaroch Alav, that here the bread was placed. So now we're bringing in the actual, right, the bread table holds the bread is placed on it, right? So this would imply that when it speaks about Al Hanerot, that it does not mean placed the candles or placed the lamps, but it means actually lit the lamps, right? Because now everything's being like turned on, right? The bread is being placed in there, the incense is being lit. So from the context, the parallel context here would imply that the lamp or the lights on the wicks or the candles on the menorah also being lit. So it's lights on, right? It's, all systems go. Verse 28, and so then the veil which covers the entire Mishkan is placed. So outside the Mishkan, we have the Ohel Moed. That's the surrounding area, right? The entire area is the Ohel Moed. Ya'al alav et ha'olah wa'et hamincha kashet tziwa Yahweh Moshe. So now this implies that they already started doing the sacrifices, but we don't have any rules for the sacrifices yet, right? At all. That's going to be in the next chapter in Leviticus. So I'm curious how some of the translations deal with that one. So that's 40:29. So Robert Alter translates it as, yes, they actually offered up on it the burnt offering and the grain offering as the Lord had charged Moses. Okay. And Everett Fox. Also the same thing. So it implies that the offerings had already started. I wonder if Robert Alter is going to point out something about that. No, he doesn't have any comment there. We can look at some of the other commentaries on Exodus 40:29 very quickly. See if anyone picks up on the fact that no sacrifices really have been commanded yet. So we do have an Exodus 29. So there's some sacrifices for the inauguration of the Mishkan. Maybe that's what it's referring to. Okay, verse 30. Asem el kior ben ohel moed uben המזבח וייתן שמה מים לרחצה ורחצו ממנו משה ואהרון ובניו את ידיהם ואת רגליהם. So Moshe and Aaron and his sons bathed בבואם אל אוהל מועד ובקרבתם אל המזבח וירחצו כאשר ציווה יהוה את משה. Verse 33, ויקם את החצר סביב למשכן ולמזבח וייתן את. So the chatzer, again, that's an outer area with the fabric fabric curtains that surrounded the entire outer area. וייתן את מסך שאר החצר, יאכל משה את המלאכה. So then you have the curtain that covers the outer area, right? Chal Moshe et hamelacha, and Moshe finished the work. And finally, we yachas ha'enan et ohel moed. So let's talk about some of the terminology. When it says ohel moed, it's really referring to the Mishkan is the inner area, the Kodesh, and then the inner area is the where the ark is the Kodesh Kedoshim. Although I'm not sure it's called that here. That might be a later thing. At any rate, the Ohel Moed is the entire area, the entire tent, or the entire area. ויכס עינן את אוהל מועד וכבוד יהוה מלא את המשכן. And the glory of Yahweh filled the Mishkan. Right? So now God's glory filled the tabernacle. ולא יכול משה לבוא אל אוהל מועד כי שכן עליו הענן כבוד יהוה מלא את המשכן. Moshe could not come into the tent of the meeting because the cloud sat upon it and the glory of Yahweh filled the tabernacle. But when the cloud alighted from the tabernacle, Yisu b'nei Israel b'chol masehem. So this is saying that the way that Israel knew it was time to travel was when the cloud that had the glory, or had within it, I guess, the glory of Yahweh, when it rose up or alighted from the Mishkan, that was the Israelites knew that it was time to travel, and we'll see that later on. Throughout all of their journeys. So basically, this cloud, right? We remember we had when the Exodus, we had the cloud that led the children of Israel by the day, and by night it turned into a pillar of fire. We had the Amud Hanan and the Amud Ha'esh, right? So now we have a similar cloud that is descending over the Ohel Moed, over that entire area. And this is the way the Israelites noticed. They put when the cloud rises up and starts moving, time to go. Okay, Ki anan Yahweh al hamishkan yomam wa'esh tieh laila. So we have again the cloud by day and the fire by night, similar to when the Israelites were led by the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire. So this was before the eyes of all the children of all the house of Israel throughout all of their journeys. So that's it. That's the Exodus. That's the conclusion of the book of Exodus. We're going to stop here. Maybe just a couple of summary statements. The book of Exodus is really separated into two almost completely different sections, right? The first section of the book of Exodus up until, where would it be? About Exodus 20, right about halfway through. That's the giving of the Ten Commandments. Has to do with the Exodus itself, right? Remember, we started the book of Exodus with Moshe. Okay, he's born. Pharaoh has the decrees against the Israelite children, so he's tossed into the river and placed in a basket, etc., etc. You all know the story. He flees to Midian after he's caught killing an Egyptian, and stays there, marries Zipporah, has a child, and eventually is tending to his flock out in the desert and is called out by Yahweh in the burning bush. Then he comes back to Egypt, meets his brother Aaron. They go back to Egypt, and then you have the whole "let my people go" and the 10 plagues, and finally the Exodus. And the Egyptians chasing after them and crossing the Red Sea, almost like the Dead Sea, crossing the Red Sea, and then finally getting to. Then you have a couple of incidents, like the incident of the water at Meribah, and then finally they get to the desert of Sinai, or to Mount Sinai, They received the 10 Commandments. And then you have some laws in Exodus 21, 22, right? And then you have the golden calf incident. And then the resolution of the golden calf, well, the entire golden calf incident. Then Moshe gets the new tablets. And then after that, basically the entire, so that would be starting in around, so the golden calf is, what's around 24 maybe? So the mountain. So here we have in Exodus 25 already the starting of the tabernacle, right? So now it's starting to talk about the tabernacle. It's 24, covenant sealed, justice and mercy. So these are laws, property laws, 21, and the giving of the 10 Commandments is 20, right? So you can really split Exodus into two sections. So really, I guess up to about chapter 25. I suppose you could say. Right. So this is actually where he's shown, right? If I'm not mistaken. Okay, I'm not sure exactly where it is. But now here we start the whole thing with the tabernacle. The description of how it should be built. Then it's the collection of the materials to build it. And then the description of it being built. And then its dedication, Moshe's approval, etc. So really, Exodus can be sectioned into two parts, maybe three parts, but really two parts. One is the Exodus section. Then you have some laws, but we'll keep that with the Exodus section because that happens around Har Sinai. And then the description of the Mishkan, right? And there's no indication that they've moved. They're really still right around Har Sinai because we remember one of our spreadsheets that we set up is journeys, and I'm logging all the journeys. So here they are. They're still in the desert of Sinai. In Exodus 19:2, they arrived to Sinai, and there's been no indication since then that they moved, right? So all of this is being done at Mount Sinai. If they arrived at Sinai in the third month, right? So we know that they got the Torah. Well, the rabbis say on Shavuot, but it's not exactly on Shavuot, but it's around Shavuot. It's around the beginning of the third month of the first year is when they arrived in Sinai. And now it's the first month of the second year, and they're still in Sinai. So they've been in Sinai for, I guess, about 10 months at this point, right? And now they have set up the Mishkan. They're still right around Sinai, right around Mount Sinai, and they haven't moved since then. So we will pick up, obviously, their movements. Next, we go into Leviticus, which is also a very technical book, but a little bit easier to understand than Exodus, because the second half of Exodus is very visual. It's very difficult to teach the second half of Exodus, right? It's very visual. So I've tried where possible. I played that video of when we visited the Timna Park, where they have a replica of the Mishkan. And I've said many times, if you're ever in Israel around Eilat, take a journey one day about 45 minutes north, maybe half an hour north, maybe it's not even 45 minutes. Go to Timna Park and visit the replica of the Mishkan, visit the replica of the tabernacle. It's well worth it. Well worth it. And so, we've had to deal with kind of translating words into visualizations. We saw that in doing so, there's a lot of ambiguity, right? If basically for all of the Mishkan, just about, nobody knows exactly what the various materials are, what they're made of, what the various stones are, how exactly the Mishkan looked, what the priestly garments looked like. A lot of it is speculation, guesses, inferences, etc. But at the same time, it's very visual, right? So you have to translate into some kind of vision of what it looks like, and that's not always easy. So that's it. We've covered all of the Mishkan stuff. The Mishkan has now been dedicated, the Kavod Yahweh. The glory of Yahweh has descended down into the Mishkan, and we've reached the end of the book of Exodus. First part of Exodus is the Exodus. Second part of the Exodus really basically deals almost entirely with the building and dedication, planning, building, and dedication of Mishkan. And so with that, I will ask if there are any questions or comments. Please ask them now. You can type them in, or you can come up onto the StreamYard stream. And if not, we'll end the study for this week. So any questions, any comments? Last chance before we go. So if not, then I will wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom and a Shavua Tov. And B'Zrat Yahweh, we will see you again next week. Same time, same place. Well, not same place, different links, but same general place. Okay, Shabbat Shalom, Shavua Tov.